Watch Symposium. I'm Austin, and this is a custom video for Sydney. Dear Austin, let me begin by saying thank you for your videos. I look forward to each one and always leave entertained and more informed than I was before viewing them. Thank you, Sydney. I do appreciate that. I'm looking to make a purchase, and I can't think of a better resource to help guide me through this process. And what does he want to get? Well, it's a Rolex watch. But in this video, we're going to look at his two current pieces, a couple of Omega watches. I've just recently developed a penchant for higher-end luxury watches, primarily Omega. It all started about 5 years ago when I wandered into an Omega boutique in my previous hometown in the Midwest in the United States. I was immediately struck by the craftsmanship, beauty, and style of many of their pieces. Of all the models, it was the Speedmaster that caught my eye and truly got me hooked. And indeed, the Speedmaster is a beautiful chronograph. It's probably my favorite line of Omega watches, and they've got a lot of different styles and variations on the Speedmaster that can be pretty interesting. And on the whole, I think it's a better looking chronograph than even the Rolex Daytona. Heresy to say that, but it was the watch that really drew Sydney into high-end watches. Without the resources to buy at a boutique, and after some research online, I found the pre-owned market to be the better way to go. More specifically, I began to look to Japan as a trustworthy source for well cared for and honestly represented vintage or pre-owned Swiss watches. And he is absolutely right, but I'm not going to go off on that tangent in this video. I'll make another video about why you might want to come to Japan to buy a watch or buy a watch from Japan. I'll upload it with this video, link in the description, but he's absolutely right, all right? My first purchase was a beautiful blue-dialed triple-date Speedmaster from the JDM, Japanese domestic market. I believe this to be a Japanese-only release, and it is truly an excellent and affordable watch with day, date, and chronograph complications. I love this watch, and after a very recent full service from Omega, where they replaced the dial hands, crowns, pushers, etc., it is truly spectacular. And this is a great bang for a buck piece, a very good first piece. They go in Japan for between 1 and 2,000 USD. They have a black dial version of the triple date and the blue dial version. He seems to think this might be a JDM model only, and sometimes brands will do that. The luxury market here in Japan is huge, so sometimes luxury makers will come out with Japanese only releases. Rolex has done that before with a Japan only turnograph. Link in the description to a video where I talk about that. But that might be the case with this blue dialed triple date. And a couple months ago, I was actually thinking about picking up this very triple date. And what stopped me? Well, really it was just the idea of having to take care of it, having to have it serviced, and just having another horological mouth to feed. You know, you pay your $1.5 for the watch, and if you're anything like me, when you get a pre-owned watch, you like to have it serviced to make sure everything is okay. And so that would have added another 700 at least USD. So before I knew it, I would have been into that watch to the tune of $2,500. And I like Omega, but just not that much. So decided I could use that money better places. All right. So, but it's a great first watch, and he's had his recently serviced, so it looks all schmicko and new, and that's great. But the dial and the hands were replaced, and I'm not sure if Omega insisted on that, but I would have not wanted them to do that. I know with Rolex, a lot of the value of a watch is in the dial, and so to have it replaced really devalues the watch. And so this isn't a particularly collectible watch, but I would have wanted to keep it original, all right? And, you know, again, Rolex or Omega might have insisted, so that might not have been his doing, but whatever. He's got a new-ish, certainly new-looking, usable piece. Now, for some reason, a lot of people really don't give that watch a lot of love, and I'm not sure why. I think it has something to do with the movement, and I think it's an automatic movement, and for some reason, people just really aren't that crazy about it, but that's what makes it such a good deal. So as a first watch, as just a usable piece to, not really worry about, it's a fantastic option, all right? And it's an interesting blue dial. So yeah, it's a great first piece. About a year and a half later, I began to long for the original style Speedmaster, especially after discovering what is known in the watch community as the Hesalite sandwich. As soon as one appeared online from the same seller in Japan as I had purchased my first Omega, I grabbed it. What a truly excellent concept to have the display case with the visible 1863 movement combined with the traditional Hesalite crystal. It is curious why Omega has not done this again on the latest moon watch, since the sapphire crystal to me is just not as appealing on the Speedmaster. So the Hesalite sandwich, and I'm not sure when that was first released, but the first variation of that, the 3592.50, ran until 1996, and it had the 863 movement, which had sort of gold colors, all right? And it was updated to what Sydney has, to the 3572.50. And the movement changed, and it had a more decorated movement, apparently with Geneva stripes and more of a rhodium color. And again, this is the Hesalite sandwich, and it's got the Hesalite plastic crystal on the front, but the display case back with the sapphire crystal on the back. And if you're getting a Speedmaster, I would want one with a display case back, especially since I'm a Rolex guy, and Rolex just doesn't give us that. So any opportunity to have a display case back and see that movement, I want it. So this is a great option, and it's got that sort of traditional look in front with a Hesalite crystal, but of course the display case back. And it's, by the way, apparently known as the mullet, all right? Which, hey, I've had an experience with a mullet or two in my day, so this would be the Speedmaster for me, I think. But it's what is it? Business in front, party in back, and there's a party in the back with a display case back. And so in 1998, 2 years after the 3572.50 came out, they changed the glowing material, all right, on the dial, and they started using luminova instead of tritium, right? And then in 2003, they phased that out, and they started putting sapphire crystal on the front, and that's the sapphire sandwich. And yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, which would I go for? I would probably go for what Sydney has. And if you're going for collectability, you'd probably want, a 1996 or 1997 when it still had the tritium, because they only made that for 2 years. Omega apparently replaces hands pretty commonly, so that might be kind of hard to find one with a tritium dial and tritium hands, which is probably why it would be collectible. But just for usability, I think one with the luminova would be great. So it'd be interesting to know which version Sydney has, the earlier version or the later version with luminova. And yeah, that's really cool. So you got the plastic crystal, the display case back, and I almost like that more than the sapphire sandwich, because it's more true to the traditional configuration of the Speedmaster. It's really, you get the best of both worlds. You get that plastic crystal, but then you get to see the movement. So that is a really excellent piece. He's got a couple of really cool Omega watches, the usable blue dialed triple date, highly functional, and then he's got the Hesalite sandwich with the manual wind and the more traditional look, especially up front, but he gets to enjoy the movement. So this is a fantastic two-piece Speedmaster collection, but he wants a Rolex now. And looking at his collection, what would you choose? Certainly not the Daytona. He's got that complication covered. He needs a watch he can wear in the ocean, in the water, and I'm thinking a water-going Rolex would be the way to go. But what do you think? What do you think he should add? Drop a comment in the comment section, and we'll look at what he's thinking about in the next video. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.